once you go through certain things, it's going to make you stronger. It hurts like hell when you are going through it. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to get tested and you're going to need a lot of resilience. And sometimes it does feel like you have the whole world on your shoulders, just trying to run everything and the finances. But it is tough, especially the early years, but you've got to keep going. How I've got to my career has been so many different things in different industries to get to where I am now. Now I'm really great at what I do, but it's taken about 20 years of hard work to get there, and I'm still learning.
To another episode of the Need to Succeed podcast, the podcast where we speak to phenomenal entrepreneurs and just understand what is it that makes them successful. Because as I always say on here, two people can go through the exact same situation. One person decides because of that situation, they can no longer achieve the things that they want to achieve in life. And the other person, because of the same exact situation, decides that they absolutely have to become wildly successful. Same situation, different outcome. What is the difference in the mindset? That is exactly what we're looking to uncover on this podcast. And today I have got with me an absolutely incredible guest. He is becoming very, very famous within the property space because he's working with a lot of entrepreneurs so they can understand exactly not just how to make money, but how to manage that money for generational wealth, right? He is a wealth protection advisor. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Adrian Benjamin.
Thank you very much. That's a great intro. Appreciate that.
How you doing, bro?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Amazing, bro. Yeah. It's an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming. I feel like, what you do is super, super important. A lot of people don't understand it, right? For a very, very weird reason, but it's something that actually a lot of people should be doing, right? Especially entrepreneurs and business owners. Yeah. But I'm sure we're going to get a minute to get into that. But before going into that, we've got a tradition on the podcast, and we've got two questions. So one at the start and one at the end. Okay. So the very, very first question is, what does success actually mean to you?
Ooh, good question. Success, I think it's individual to everyone. As long as you're happy. Some people it's not money, it's spending time with their family. Some people it is getting as much money as possible or traveling or whatever. So success is is for me defined by the individual.
Yeah. What about to you? What does it mean to you?
I think being content, so providing for my family. I love to travel. Obviously money is a big part of things. You need to pay for bills, so money is important, but being happy, being around good people, to me, being around other successful people as well. Yeah.
Listen, it makes sense, bro. Because I hate this when people kind of say, "Oh, money doesn't make you happy. Money doesn't make you happy." It's like, cool. It's weird because I was poor growing up, right? So for me, it's like, yeah, I get like actually me looking at money, it's not gonna make me happy, but it's a lot of things that I want to achieve that having this money is allowing me to do, and those things are making me happy, right? Like you said, going on holiday, spending time with family, spending time with good people. You don't have those luxuries, bro, if you ain't got money.
I agree with you. Money gives you options. It doesn't make you happy, but it gives you the option.
Exactly.
For example, if you're stressed out, you have the option to fly to a beach and then enjoy yourself over there, then stay where you're at. So money is a byproduct of it. Yeah,
absolutely, bro. I love that, man. I love that. Okay, cool. So let's get into this. And what I love to do on this podcast is really understand the journey of an entrepreneur, because that's where I really feel the lessons are there to be learned, because we haven't all just come to become where we are today, and now you've got this level of income and life is good and all of that, but where were you before and how did you actually make it here? So who was Adrian back in school?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Manchester, and I think when I was 18 I wanted to get into business. So I did business studies in Birmingham City University, because I was thinking, well, like you said, everything you said before, like you need money in a job. So if I learn about business at uni, it's going to help me when I graduate, which is kind of true, kind of not true, because real life experience is completely different to a textbook. I did a 4-year degree instead of 3 because I didn't want to graduate And then employers say, well, you don't have any real life experience. So my third year, I worked in Worcester for the German company Bosch that do the heating supply in HR. So that was a great time for me just to learn, like, this is how a corporate company works. This is how you get indoctrinated and you learn certain things. And me working in the HR department, the HR director took me under her wing and just give me so much information about how to conduct myself in a workplace, how to hold an interview, how to research, what things to say, what not to say. So that really, really helped me. And then when I graduated, I did the Mountbatten internship. So if you think of like The Apprentice, it's like that on steroids. So you got 200 graduates from around the world all living in New York for a year. So you've got people from Nigeria, China, Australia, the UK, like all over. We all come together and we work for all these different firms. I worked for UBS Swiss Bank in 2009, so kind of mid crash, which we'll probably get to a little bit later. So learning how an investment bank works, learning how a Swiss bank works, being out on Wall Street at 22, like there's so much stuff that I learned in those 12 months that has really supercharged my career. That was a massive like stepping stone for me, just being in a corporate environment, living abroad. So sometimes you got issues, you can go see your friends, see your family. Like, I'm on the other side of the world, you just got to figure it out. So being in that investment banking space in that time, which is iconic, just really catapulted my career, really.
Incredible. I know Mountbatten. My sister did the whole Mountbatten thing, so I remember
Cool.
when she was there, and you don't know who you're going to be sharing with, right?
Yes.
She was sharing with someone and all that sort of stuff. But great experience for her as well. Great experience. So I don't know because I haven't lived it myself, but I know through her that it's something that she really enjoyed in that period as well. But again, I'm going to take it back. This is why I always like taking it back, because you started at 18. 18 is too old. Let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
And the reason being is you just take it for granted that you wanted to do business. The reality is, like, entrepreneurship and business, it's not something that's pushed, especially in this country. In countries like America more so. Countries like Nigeria is like more so, right? You see a lot of it just around you, but not so much in this country. So the fact that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, you wanted to be in business, is not just something that's normal. So I want to understand, what were your formative years and what allowed you to have this kind of thinking. So let's go back to school. Like, what were you like in school? Like, if someone said to you, who was Adrian back in primary school, for example?
Primary school. I think I was kind of shy growing up. I was one of the more popular kids in school, and then I got into basketball, I think, at 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So my uncle he's really into basketball, and he had the old VHS tapes, and I'm watching it. I'm like, oh wow, there are loads of like black guys who are doing really well, being successful. So that's actually where it started from. Who doesn't want to be like Michael Jordan back then? So I started playing by myself and just practicing a lot, and got really, really good. Then when I went to secondary school, I played for Manchester Magic, and back then, the person that founded our basketball club is called John Amici. He's one of the few British-born people to actually play in the NBA.
I was going to say John Amici. I was going to say, you can't just drop that name in there like that. Like, I'm Nigerian, I know them.
John Amici was huge. Like, you've actually been in the NBA. You played against Michael Jordan. He's played against, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, Shaq. Like, he's been around the best players in the world. And coming from Manchester, like, he's like a big icon back home. So being around someone that is super, super successful, and he'd come back every year to his camp in Manchester. He set up the academy in Whalley Range in Manchester. Just seeing, like, this is what an NBA player does. Like, this is the work ethic. These are things that you've got to do every day. And those principles from basketball, for me, relate to business. Always looking at how you can get better. How can you have the edge over the competition? Repetition is the mother of skill. Like, failure is a part of life. Like, how do you rebound from that? Having like KPIs, what are your stats? You're going to need that. What is your close rate? How are you going to generate more business? How are you going to get more efficient? Like, all these things are from basketball, really. So that's really how it started. And for me, not knowing if I'm good or not, and just working to be one of the best players in the city, and then the whole of the country as well, has really helped me in business.
That's amazing, bro. Yeah, like, and that's the thing about role models. And being, when people talk about like deprived communities and not having role models, like, that's the power of a role model. Sometimes it's difficult for you to achieve something that you've not seen, But once you've been able to see it, and you can see this person I'm looking at, very, very normal, similar to me, same background, and they've gone on to achieve this incredible thing. Okay, cool. Like, so I can do the same thing as well then, because there's nothing too special about this person. So it's important to have those role models there. But also from what you're talking about is just understanding the work ethic. Okay, if I am going to achieve that, we might be from the same background, but this is what it's going to take. This is the level of commitment, dedication, and the level of effort that I've got to put into this to actually kind of make it happen, right? But like, how does that go into business? Like, why don't you think, okay, go, I want to become a basketball player?
I tried. Nah, like we were. I was at the England finals when I was 16, and the best player, the most valuable player, is gonna get an opportunity to play in America. So I thought, okay, this is finally my chance. And all these years of training and sacrificing, not going out and traveling up and down the UK, this is it. I ruptured my Achilles in the England final. Do you know what I mean? And as a kid, like basketball is everything. I played that every day, right? And then when I was in the hospital, I had to have surgery on it like the following day. And I was thinking, no matter how good of a basketball player I am, if I don't take school seriously, then I have nothing. So at the time, it was horrible. You're thinking,
How
you're
old were you at this point?
16
16.
when I ruptured my Achilles. So
How did that feel in that moment?
it feels like someone kicks you.
Yeah.
So I just turned around. I was like, this dude just kicked
What's
me, and no
happening?
one saw like him kick me. But no, and then
But I mean,
yeah,
more like emotionally. How not so much the rupture, but obviously you've been working so hard to achieve this thing.
yeah.
That moment when you realize, oh, I've ruptured my Achilles.
Hmm.
This dream is dead.
Hmm.
Like, do you remember how you felt in that moment?
Yeah, I thought it was awful, man. Just being in a hospital bed, like I can't move. I'm in so much pain. It's like everything I work for is stopped. And then the surgeon said, like, you can play basketball, but we'd encourage you not to because the other one might go and things like that. And saying that to a 16-year-old in any sport is devastating. So obviously I rehabbed. I still played anyway the following season. It's hard because you have to start from scratch. You have to teach yourself how to walk again. So when we
Wow.
talked up, before we got on the podcast about failure and struggles, like all these things shape you because the Achilles industry injury, sports wise, one of the most devastating things you can have. Tore my ACL a little bit when I got to like 25, 26 as well, but that's kind of like soul destroying. But to come back from that, like doing the physio, my physio was like, oh my God, everything I tell you, like you've done it. You're like a really good, client. I'm like, yeah, because I want to get back on the court as quickly as I can. Um, Doing my GCSEs at the time as well. We hadn't finished the syllabus. I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't really take school that seriously because I'm like, I'm going to America, I'm going to the league. So I had to basically study every subject by myself from scratch because I wasn't in school. I was on coding a lot, so I was tired. I was in and out. So just trying to study everything from scratch and dealing with the Achilles was tough. But I got pretty much all A's. I think I got like 8 A's and like 1 B.
Wow.
So like I said, I had to do everything from scratch by myself. But also what I learned as well is no matter what happens in life, like it's all on you. I can't
Mm.
blame anyone and oh my God, I'm injured and this. I was like, okay, it's happened. It's annoying. I'm going to be back next season better than ever. Took the school as far as they can be, like broke all the records, 40 points. I was the only person in school history to dunk. You know what I mean? Little things like that, So
Wow.
I was athletic. I'm not athletic now, but back then I could dunk. But yeah, you just roll with it. And then, it's on me. So I think
Where
even
does
though,
where does that mindset come from though? Are you have you when you're in hospital, have you got your mom next to you? You got someone like
Mhm.
giving you words of encouragement. Like how do you get that mindset?
It's got to come from you because at the end of the day, my mom can't do my exam. My mom can't play ball. Like
Mm.
it's on me. So I think at that age, that whole being responsible and having a strong sense of like I don't make excuses. It's not COVID. It's not the
Why
environment.
not
It's not
though?
because it's just a cop out. Like this is life. Like stock businesses go up or down, stock price go up and down. Like it's irrelevant. You can't just say it's a stock price or it's COVID, or it's this or it's AI. It's always an excuse. Like no, it's my responsibility.
Mm.
That's where I think it came from. I'm responsible for getting educated. I'm responsible for doing the rehab. I'm responsible for putting the hours in. I'm responsible for reading all these books. I'm responsible for listening to everything on Audible and getting out there and making the effort. It's I, and I don't make excuses.
Has that all just come naturally to you, or do you
Yeah.
attribute that to someone or something?
No, it's always been me. Like I have to, it's always, everything is on me. It's my responsibility, and it's if it goes wrong, it's my fault. But I would never say it's the economy or it's this or it's that, because even before I went to America, the crash, what happened, and my HR director said this is the wrong time to do it. Go back to school, and I'm like, no, like I'm gonna go anyway and see what happens. I think people's perception of fear, and obviously what we touched on before as well, once you go through certain things, it's going to make you stronger. It hurts like hell when you are going through it, but obviously you've overcome what you went through. You know, similar to me, like with the Achilles and business as well. Like I set up a business, it failed. Okay, fine. To me now, it's a learning experience. There is no, there is no failure. Do you know what I mean? So your countryman Giannis Antetokounmpo, he plays for the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA, and he lost in the finals. And the recruiter said, the reporter, sorry, said, "Is this year been a failure?" He's like, "No, like sometimes you win. We won 2 years ago, and now we've lost, and we're gonna try and get better so we win next year." Like it's just a cycle. You can't get too bogged down in the failure. It's a part of the journey, right? So if you watch The Last Dance on Netflix about Michael Jordan, right, that's a very inspiring documentary. Even if you don't like sports, just seeing what he had to go through and him being beaten up by the Detroit Pistons, and he was always coming up short, or he's a ball hog, he's this, he's that. He had to grind to win. Kobe had to grind to win. LeBron has had to. Everyone fails early and then they win it later. It's very rare that you just start winning in success. Like I'm a big Man United fan. We ain't won in what 10 years. We ain't winning 10 years. Like we haven't won anything.
You and me
It
both, bro.
yeah, like it takes a while. Like so when you're on top of your game and you're winning, like now I've learned as I got older, like enjoy that. Go on holiday, spend the money, enjoy it, because it's not guaranteed. Like how many big companies have been wiped out forever from COVID or AI? Do you know what I mean? Like nothing is guaranteed, even if you're producing billions of profit every single year. You know, Blockbuster isn't here anymore. Netflix as well. Do people really watch Netflix anymore? Do you know what I mean? Like, don't take it for granted.
Wow, wow. Very, 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 very powerful segment, bro. And although that's innate, what I want people to understand is that's something that you can build within yourself and have that fortified mindset and just understand that, the reality is, look, it's cool to blame other things. Like, you can do that, but nothing is going to change. And only when you decide, well, okay, cool, it doesn't actually matter what happens. If I take accountability, it's not even about blame. If I'm saying, okay, cool, this has happened, if I take accountability, then I can do something about it and I can shift that to what I want it to be. But if I'm blaming something else, then that situation is never going to change. And as long as I keep thinking about it, then I'm going to remain stuck in that situation. Or I can just decide I'm going to make it happen and then go and make it happen. So
accountability. You're right. That's the main thing. You need that, because if you're gonna be an entrepreneur, you're gonna get tested and you're gonna need a lot of resilience. And sometimes it does feel like you have the whole world on your shoulders, just trying to run everything, and the finances. Like it is tough, especially the early years. But you've got to keep going. And I think with social media, they portray like if you're not a millionaire and you're like you're a failure or you don't own a property, which is ridiculous. Like that is so dumb. And like the average millionaire is probably like 47, has 7 separate companies anyway, and they have help.
Yeah.
But this stigma of it is all not true. Like as you gotta work really, really hard. What you work on, it might not work, but whatever has happened, like learn from that and put it on the next thing. Like how I've got to my career has been so many different things in different industries to get to where I am now. Now I'm really great at what I do, but it's taken about 20 years of hard work to get there, and I'm still learning. Every day I'm doing learning from the providers and how can I get better every single day. Like it doesn't stop. Like getting better does not stop. If Michael Jordan is still practicing like layups, you all should be practicing layups. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
You shouldn't be just shooting from half court.
100%. Awesome, bro. Okay. Yeah, that was perfect. So, what did you learn from going to America? For those who don't know, 2008 there was the global financial crisis. The whole world came to a stop. Banks were going bankrupt, if that's a thing. Banks going bankrupt. But we're having to bail them out, and you're going to learn about the financial world. You're going to almost like the financial capital. I know London is, but obviously New York is another massive financial hub, right? And this is actually where a lot of this nonsense started.
Correct.
The subprime mortgages and things
Correct.
like that.
Yeah.
So Like, what was that experience like for you, and what would you say was the biggest takeaway from that?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. It's more of a cultural thing. So I feel in the UK we're more reserved, where in America it is what it is. They are very direct and they expect you to get it immediately. Um, so like my first week, they'll show you something on the computer and then bang off you go. That's it. Like they're not holding your hand, and I'm dealing with billions every day. I'm 22. Like that's a lot of money to deal with. It's a lot of responsibility, but from the pressure of that role and living in a country I'd never been before properly like that, you have to pick things up quickly. So I think that's where the entrepreneurial bit um, happened. I've always been entrepreneurial anyway. Like I've just from basketball or moving to Birmingham. Some people want to stay at home, which is fine. I'm like, look, I don't want to stay in Manchester. I don't want to go to London. I'm going to pick Birmingham. I'm just going to study and I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to get a job. I don't know with who. I'm going to work hard. I sent out like 100 applications and CVs getting rejected. Finally, Worcester chose me. I'd started that job and I was still getting rejection letters, which is funny. Like I really wanted to work for Accenture back then, which is hilarious because when I came back and I moved to London, they hired me as a contractor. So, the irony is no matter what, hey, you said it. The irony is like, even though you're getting rejected then, or just because it's a no then doesn't mean it's a no in the future. And you're right. I did get a lot more money later on. But, I just think it's like we say, it's a part of the journey. Like it's just because it's a no now, don't mean it's a no later. That's how I look at life. Just because then is not a good time for the business opportunity. Couple months, couple years later, it can be a yes. So don't get bogged down in the rejection bit. And I think, again, me being a recruitment consultant, you get rejected every single day. Rejection is just a part of life and it's a part of business. I'm kind of immune to it. When now I have the confidence, if someone says no, I'm like, that's a you issue.
Cool.
That's not me. I know I'm good. I know I can do what I can do.
Yeah.
If you can't see it, cool. Someone else is going to see my value and I'll just keep it moving.
100%. And that's the thing about, those selling situations, right? Because oftentimes when people are selling and they get a no from someone, it's almost as if it's personal, it's internalized, like this person is rejecting me. No, they're rejecting an offering that you put in front of them, and that's perfectly fine. As long as you have done a thorough job in that conversation, you move on. And if you haven't done a thorough enough job in that conversation, analyze and understand where you could have been more thorough, you could have been better, you could have asked better questions, you could have come back with a better rebuttal. Understand those moments, put that down, and then move on. But it doesn't benefit you just kind of thinking, oh, they've rejected me, they've turned me down, because that's really going to make the next call 10 times worse because your energy is all wrong.
Yeah, and you're right. And like I said, sometimes it's just timing. It's got nothing to do with your sales pitch. You've done everything. It's just the time for the client is wrong. I've had clients that come back 6, 12 months later saying, you know what, we weren't ready then. We're ready now.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's a contradiction with business. You have to be patient and you also have to be impatient. That makes sense. You've got to be impatient with the learning and the networking and trying to get better. But sometimes with the relationships, they take time. With me and Dr. Daniel Moses, like he'd seen me like years ago. And then, a couple of years ago, we have a formal partnership together. It takes time, so.
Absolutely. What is it? Patiently impatient.
Yeah.
Exactly. One of those things. Okay, cool, bro. So you've gone there. You've had this like intense experience in terms of 0 to 100. This is how you learn. Crash or burn, right? Well, not crash or burn. It's fight or flight.
Yeah, because they'll fire you, bro.
Yeah.
So legit, if you can't hack it, like in New York, they have no issues. Like, get out.
You're gone. See you
Do you know
later.
what I mean? And because it was the recession, like every day people were getting fired. So even I think one of the person that helped to recruit me, it's just, they go out of the room and then you don't see them again. And then, you got to move their stuff. Like it's really weird. It's like someone dies. And then the next, no, legit, like everyone was getting laid off. So we were scared as interns thinking, are we going to get laid off too? But the Mountbatten said, no, we're cool. And they were right. No one got laid off. We were fine. But people that you go to, you learn from and you get to know, they're getting fired for, obviously a financial reason. So you'll learn like this is the part of the business. And then later on, like I've been made redundant as well. Like it's just a part of business. I've had contracts where, have been cut short. They've not been renewed. But that's just... It is what it is. It's painful when you go through it the first time you get made redundant because you've done nothing wrong. But then again, that pain has helped me. Like now I'm self-employed. Like I'm not relying on someone else's decision like that anymore. I am taking ownership and control of my future, my financial future. But it's taken years of that, of, like First time it happens, okay. Then the second time it happens, like, okay, like, I'm not letting it happen a third time.
Yeah.
So the fear of, some people, I'm not knocking being employed or not, but you're more in control if you're self-employed. It's difficult, it is hard, but you got to put the time in, the years in, and then you'll feel more comfortable.
What's a wealth protection advisor?
So wealth protection advisor, I look at people's family situation, their business situation, and anything of importance. I will financially protect that. So it is a kind of a form of insurance.
Okay, so you say anything financially important, you will protect that. What do you mean?
So
like my shoes?
No, good question. So it could be. So I have a lot of property people I work with. Yeah. So it could be your mortgage. So if someone was unfortunate to pass away, can the family still pay the mortgage? As we know at the minute in the UK, mortgages, everyone's talking about them, how expensive they are. The cost of living's gone up. So now there is a bigger need for wealth protection more than ever. So it's not just if you have a mortgage. If you don't have a mortgage, if you want to pass money down to the family, if you were to pass away, that's important. So Ibrahim, you could say to me, look, Adrian, I want £1 million of life insurance just in case anything happens, and I want this person, that person to benefit from it, and I'll write it in trust for you so you're not paying 4% inheritance tax. So that's a form of wealth protection. It could be a case of you've had a critical illness such as cancer where you need time off work. Bills don't stop. That's my motto. Like, it doesn't matter what your bill is, it's always going to be there. What thing now is cheaper than it was 5-10 years ago? Nothing, right? Nothing, right? So you want to protect that. So if you said, look, I've got this really serious medical issue, I don't want to work, I want to take 2 years off, I want to travel the world, there's a policy where you can do that. So these products are there where financial worry creates stress and mental health, and I think the two are linked. If you can't pay your rent and your mortgage, you're going to be stressed, right? So if you have that critical illness policy, you can say, look, we're going to pay down the mortgage, or we're going to go on holiday, or we're going to pay to get treatment abroad. Like we said before about money, it gives you options. And that's what my role is to give people more financial options than they would have if they had to just rely on their savings alone. Savings will never make you rich or wealthy. You've got to have other financial instruments to help you with that. And then the third one, if you're self-employed, let's say you're a builder, you break your arm, you can't get paid. So you need a product called income protection that will give you a monthly income. If you're self-employed and you have a bad back, you fall over, you're stressed, any reason, the money will stop coming in. So with income protection, you're getting a monthly income from the policy. So that's really important. I think more people are looking at income protection and private medical now because of COVID than ever before. Yeah.
Wow, that covers quite a lot, to be honest. So are you telling me then, from what you've just said, there's a couple of things. Are you telling me that I can take out a mortgage and then take out like a wealth protection insurance policy that, and if something was to happen to me, God forbid, then my mortgage just carries on being paid?
Correct, yeah, correct. So with a lot of property people, they'll get the life insurance to match the mortgage. So God forbid anything happens, your family aren't going to get kicked out. So my job is to make sure that property that you put so much money and time into it because it's expensive, especially in the UK, it's not going to end up in auction. That's why I tell property people, my job is whether you have a residential property or a buy-to-let portfolio, like everything should be covered. And even if you don't want to pay down the mortgage, you can use that cash to buy more. Because that's the beauty of life insurance is that cash, you have the ability to do what you want with it, right? So
when you say you're done, obviously.
Okay, your family, your beneficiary, or it could be the other way around, right? Because I always say if you're taking a life insurance policy on, say, on your partner, they should take one out on you. It should match, right? If you're paying money every month to help someone else, they should do the same thing for you. Everything stays in the family. So
can you have like one together?
You can have a joint one, yeah. But I would always say have it separate. The reason why, this is a real life example where there was a married couple, the man paid the policy, they got divorced. He's cancelled it. So now his ex-wife is financially exposed. So you should both have it in your own name. Same thing with your will. They can mirror each other, but everyone is responsible for their own.
Interesting. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And your beneficiaries as well. So let's say you and your partner have the same life insurance policy, same will. You might not like her brother. You don't want to be giving money to him. Like, he's a waste man, right? So have it separate. So there's a TV show on at the minute on ITV called Riches. It's about a a British African family who have a hair company that's worth millions, and the father passes away, and you're seeing the children and the wife figure it out, and it wasn't communicated. So what I like about my role as a wealth protection advisor is having the family discuss finances while they're all in the same room. So as you know,
Mm.
from an African background, when we die, there's a whole heap of
Mm.
madness. Yeah.
Mm.
And there's a lot of people coming out of the
Uncles and
woodwork.
aunties and cousins that appearing.
Yeah, out of nowhere, who feel they're entitled to things. So
Mm.
with my role, it helps prevent that. So if your name isn't down on the will, the trust of life insurance, you're not getting in. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the owner of LVMH, one of the richest men in the world. I think he is the richest man in the world. He's auditioning for his children to take over from him. So wealth is branded about a lot on social media, but if you don't have a conversation with your family and your friends or whoever you want in that circle, you don't communicate and you don't have trust, then it's pointless.
Mm.
Because I see so many people getting into property, doing it for the rental income, and I said to him, like, how is your family going to get that? No idea, no will, no trust, no life, no nothing. Like that, you're going to get hit with inheritance tax if they sell, capital gains tax, all these things that you're going to be hit with because you haven't planned it. That's why you need to speak to a specialist like myself to go through everything to make sure you understand it and plan it. Because I do have clients where they'll want certain children to have the money and manage it and not others. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And another reason why I'm in this industry is because we have a lot of footballers and we have a lot of celebrities who make millions and they go broke.
Mm.
So I'm there to make sure that stuff doesn't happen.
What's inheritance tax?
So inheritance tax is there's a nil rate band. So if you're a single person, it's 325,000. If you're a couple, it's 650,000. Anything above that band, the taxman can take 40% of it. So there are a lot of people
Sorry. What do you mean?
yeah,
What do you mean the tax man? What they're taking?
they're taking 40%
40% of what?
of the value of whatever is over that nil rate band.
Why?
Because they're the rules, bro. They're
You
the
said there's
rules.
nothing I can do about it.
Well, unless you speak to me and I write something in trust for you, then no,
Okay.
you won't be paying inheritance tax. But if you
Okay.
don't, they're gonna get you with it. Same thing when you get paid, you've got obviously got to pay tax and NI. Inheritance tax is called a silent tax because people are just unaware of it. People just think when they die, oh, so and so is going to take over it, but they don't know anything about your finances. They don't know what is with what. You haven't told them anything. So this is why with wealth planning, it's having different generations in the same room discussing everything. So again, I'm going to point out the show Riches on ITV. Everyone needs to watch that to see what it looks like with different generations from different cultures, from Nigeria, the UK, America, all coming together to trying to figure out what we're going to do with this money. Are we entitled to this money? What did my father want me to do? Does that make sense? So even if you don't come from money, you're not business minded, you still need to have the conversation. Like, what do you want? With me, my sister gets everything. My family, my kids, they get stuff too. But it's all been planned. It's all been documented.
Mm.
And like you said before, it's if you're around people that understand it, right? It makes it a lot easier. I'm lucky where I've been around financial advisors since I've been small. It's not a big deal for me. It might be overwhelming for other people, which is fine, and I understand that. But that's why you need to speak to a specialist like myself to make sure that you understand it.
Mm. Oh, bro, that's crazy, man. There's like this. I mean, what you're doing is just super important because essentially what you're saying is, people are making this, especially entrepreneurs, right? You're making this money. And it doesn't have to be entrepreneurs. It could be just someone who's also got 9 to 5. But, you're making this money. You're investing in assets like property, but also at the same time, you're not realizing this wealth is actually also making things more vulnerable for your future generation. Because maybe they're taking the foot off the pedal right now because they're thinking, mom and dad is money, which is not a good thing, by the way. But nonetheless, you're working hard so they can have a better life. And what you're not realizing is actually, if you were to go today, there's all these other taxes that are going to hit you. There's now this liability that they've not got in terms of a mortgage that they've not got to actually find a way to sponsor. Otherwise, they'll lose the property, which is an asset you wanted to leave back for them. But there's actually a solution to this, and we just go speak to someone.
Yeah, and it's also, I know we've been talking about mortgages a lot. Even if you don't have a mortgage, if you're renting, it's still a bill. So it's irrelevant. Rent, or you need somewhere to live. And if someone's gone, doesn't matter if they're the main breadwinner or not, it's going to impact the family in a massive way. And what I just saw through COVID is a massive wealth shift. And I was just thinking, if people do not get financially educated and financially literate, the gap is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So in the UK, like trying to buy a property in your own name, doesn't matter, not just London, anywhere in the UK, is more expensive than ever before. Even you having a good job and having, two salaries is not enough anymore. This is why, life insurance and wealth protection is more important than ever before, because you're getting that money passed down to you tax-free because it's written into trust. That is deposit money, right? That is business loan money, right? That is investment money. That money can be used in so many different ways, but people are just unaware of it. Not everyone is business minded. Not everyone wants to get into property. Some people just want to crack. Let's say your child is a creative, right? They want to set up a dance studio. So they're very good at what they do, but you're going to need money for that. So you could say, look, if I pass away, my daughter has this money and she's going to use that to set up her own dance studio and she's going to grow it. So she's going to be a business woman in her own right, but you've helped her along with that. Does that make sense? But it's all about planning it. So when I speak to clients, I say, are your children financially literate? Are they good with money? Yes. Yes. No. Well, we don't trust that one. Okay. Well, how are you going to solve that? And these are the conversations that we're having, where I had a client today where they've got 4 children and the oldest son is going to be in charge of the money, not the other 3. Sometimes you have to save people from themselves also. Yeah. So if you have someone that isn't financially responsible, where let's say, so for example, people that say they want to win the lottery, the stat is the people that win the lottery, 6 years later, they've spent all of it. And it keeps on happening, right? Yep. It keeps on, like, why? Like all these footballers, Wes Brown, 50 grand a week, now bankrupt, Craig Bellamy, like the list is endless. Like, why? Crazy. You need financial advisors and they need to help you like stick to the plan. So even if someone is in charge of the money, they can say to people that aren't financially literate, like, look, I'm only going to give you X amount. Instead of me giving you £1 million, I'm going to make sure you get £3 grand a month to pay the bills. Does that make sense? Yeah, so the money lasts longer. They're still getting looked after. You're not giving them all at once. And that's a conversation that I enjoy having with people, because they don't have it, where certain cultures at the dinner table, all they talk about is money. Yeah. How are we going to do this? We're going to go into that industry and dominate it. We're not having those conversations. Wow. And we don't talk about money, which is weird to me, because we go to work to get money, but when we come home, we don't discuss it with people.
Wow, bro, that's been so enlightening. Like you've literally but you've shared a lot on a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't know, a lot of people don't talk about, and like you're quite right, within our community, it's not really something that a lot of people talk about, understand. There's even almost like this element of like tabooish, like I don't talk about death and all these sort of things, but the reality is it's coming, it's happening, we all need money. And if there's one thing that we love talking about in our community, not talking about, but that we love, is money in our community, right? So the fact that we don't actually talk about this thing that can give us all of the things that we want is really, really weird, bro. But like there's just so much value that you're giving in the product that you're doing. And I think that information, that message needs to go out as much as possible.
Can I give two? Can I give 2 examples? So I know the UK is different to America with the rules regards to life insurance, but I'm pretty sure Master P, I think is worth $500 million. Yeah. His granddad or dad passed away, gave him 10,000, and he moved from New Orleans to LA to set up his record company. Yeah. I think Walt Disney as well got an insurance policy to help set up the business. So instead of going to the bank for a loan or crowdfunding, it's like with this policy, you've got the money. But like I keep saying, like it's having the conversation. Like, what would you want to do with the money? Buy a car? No. Like, not buying a car with the money. Like, we're getting you educated. It doesn't have to be for university. It could be for property training or whatever it is. You're getting educated. We're buying property because it just makes sense. And then whatever business you're passionate about can be used instead of going to the bank for a loan, because banks make their money off the interest. But if you're getting a tax-free lump sum, there's no reason to go to the bank for anything, because you got the money, right? It's up to you to make sure that the people around you understand it, and how can we make that money go further. So have you heard of the Rockefeller family? Of course. Right. Yeah. So Jay-Z, everyone know who Jay-Z is, named his rap group Rockefeller. Yeah. So if you don't know who Rockefellers are, just Google it. So Rockefeller family in America, they had a life insurance policy. It's now in its 14th generation. Yeah. So let's make it really easy. If you're like the head of your family, right? Yeah. You have £1 million life insurance policy. You pass away, that goes down. The next generation say, okay, we've got this money. We're going to do business, property, X, Y, Z. We're going to do life insurance again, but we're going to double it. So we're going to do 2 million. Then the third generation says, oh, we're going to do 4 million. The next generation does, oh, we're going to do 8 million. You see how it keeps going.
Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken as well, because
Yeah.
I know a little bit about this Rockefeller situation.
Mm.
Like it's not so much just about how much money is growing over the generation. The fact that it remained in generation was explicitly because of the instructions that were put down in trust of how they can spend it. So it's not just a case of, oh, we've got a million and we're gonna, like, no, there was explicit instructions put
Mhm.
down on how that money is gonna get spent, and that's why they've been able to, have it over
Yeah.
generations. Because sometimes, typically, I think is by the third generation you've
It's
lost your
gone.
wealth.
Correct. Yeah. But if you have, so with how a trust works is you've got trustee, i.e., someone you trust,
Yeah.
let's say your brother, for example, then your beneficiaries, let's say your partner and your children, right? They, again, might not be financially literate and make bad decisions. But the trustee says, no, I'm only going to give you X amount. It's got to be someone you trust. Does that make
Mm.
sense? You could have an accountant or a solicitor do it, but they're going to charge you for it. But the whole point is, like you said, that money stays in the family because there's strict instructions. So um, let's say it's a big amount of money. I will give you half of the deposit. I want you to still work and figure it out.
Mm.
But I'm going to assist you with this property. Or if you want this business, I want you to get X amount and I'm going to give you half. So you're incentivizing, you're encouraging people, where I feel
Mm.
a lot of footballers and sports people, celebrities just give out money like that and people feel like owed something. Like, no, you can't do that.
It's
That's
not
the only way
doing
it's going
them
to
any
work.
favors.
Correct. And you're going to see, you've probably seen it timeless times where you've got certain people and they make loads of money and then it's all gone. Where, you've had generational money where you're out of your situation, you are with millions. How are you falling back into it? And feel, like I said, I'm really tired of seeing that. Like, it doesn't have to happen because other communities don't have this issue. This is us
Mm.
that has this issue.
Mm.
Like, why do we keep doing it? Doesn't make any
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, and listen. I mean, if you ask me, it's something that I've heard someone say. It's difficult because when you've got this mindset of not like a slave mindset, but when you've got this segregated mindset, because that's what's happened to us for a lot of generations,
Hmm.
right? Then it's almost as if it's like that. Have you seen Django?
Yeah.
You know, it was
Actually, no, I'm not seeing it. No, no.
you haven't seen
No, no,
Django,
no.
but it's like there's like the house Negro.
Okay.
So he's the one that actually gets to stay in the house and
Mm,
cook for them and all that sort of stuff.
mm,
But he gets a little bit more privileges, so he kind
mm,
of feels like
mm.
he treats the other
A lot of people.
black
Yeah.
people outside worse than even
Yeah.
the slave masters did, right? And I think it's just that wanting to get to the top, and I want to be the top. I don't mind if you get a little bit of success, but as long as I'm the kingpin, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that's kind of hurting the community a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
things are getting better. We will get there, and people like you keep doing what you're doing, and we're able to understand the diligence and how we can actually pass this wealth down
Mm-hmm.
with strict criterias. Then hopefully in a couple generations time there can be some level
Yeah.
of parity.
Not even the insurance bit, just money management in general. Because I get it, like, growing up I was broke, uni and whatever, being an intern, we got had no money. But I'm always like, what is the bigger picture?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was contracting with Accenture, the funny thing is, like, I was on way more than I would have been as a grad, right? And then when I worked at Accenture, I got headhunted by Visa, the payments company. They gave me a 240% pay rise, right? A lot of people would have got that extra money and just blown it. I'm like, well, I've been broke. I'm just gonna put it over here.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't touch it. I didn't get the car. I didn't get the watch. I didn't do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I just paid down my mortgage and I paid for my parents to go to Jamaica. That was
Nice.
it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then fast forward now, where the property crisis is all mad with interest rate stuff. I paid down my mortgage 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I made that sacrifice of that pay rise and
Mm.
putting it in the property. So now instead of
And
having
now,
35-year mortgage, I'm on like a 20-year mortgage
nice.
because I paid it down.
Yeah.
And I know if I want to get that money, I can still remortgage and get the cash out. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I'm not spending it on stupid stuff. It's when I get the tenant, then if I have that extra money, then I can do something.
Love that.
So it's the money management first and then all the financial products a little bit later as well.
I love that, bro, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute honor. I've really loved this conversation, especially like I said for the communities, when I feel like there's a lot that definitely can be can be taken away from this and really to be implemented, more importantly. But like I said, we've got two traditions, and there is a final question, which is, with everything that you've now done in your life, in your career, all these massive conglomerates you've worked for, now you're an entrepreneur, you're doing things yourself, you're creating a splash within the industry. What now remains your need to succeed?
I've got a family now. I've got a daughter, so I just got to do the best for her. So I've got to work even harder and help the community as much as I can. So everything we've spoken about, I've got my own YouTube channel, Adrian B Finance, which will break down different things of like what is a trust, why you need income protection, private medical, things like that, why you need a will. Like everything there is on social media. So even if someone watches this now and doesn't understand it, they can go on my YouTube, they can go on my Instagram, like they can see different things as well, so they can learn as well, and then help themselves first, and then help the family as well.
Amazing, bro. Mr. Adrian Benjamin, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.